Wow, Devin Haney blocked from ESPN's top 10 pound-for-pound list despite traveling to Australia and dominating George Kambosos, who had beat the guy who beat the guy to beat the guy. That's what I will talk about in this very video. You guys gotta subscribe and stay tuned. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I am back with some more boxing, and it feels so great to be back. I love what I do. Hopefully you guys are entertained. Subscribe to the channel. Let's jump right into the mix. Now, Stephen Espinoza, he kicked things off in a brilliant way. He tweeted in response to ESPN.com's men's pound-for-pound rankings. Let me go through it real quick, and then I'll get to what Stephen Espinoza had to say. Number 1, Terrence Crawford. 2, Nayao Inoue. 3, Errol Spence Jr. 4, Canelo Alvarez. 5, Tyson Fury. 6, Alexander Usyk. 7, Artur Beterbiev. 8, Dmitry Bivol. 9, Vasily Lomachenko. And 10, Shakur Stevenson. Stephen Espinoza, head of Showtime, says there are currently 3 undisputed champions in the 4-belt era, so the 4-belt men's world champions, and the only one that is on ESPN's list is the one who just lost. What he's referring to, for those that aren't in the know, is Devin Haney became true undisputed, which I'll get to later, and you guys got to subscribe and, stay tuned to the end of the video so I can finish going over things. And Devin Haney just did that in Australia, beat George Kambosos and dominated. The other person, of course, is Showtime, JERMELL Charlo versus Brian Castano, and he won his fight via knockout. Now, boxing, I've been doing it for years. I've been covering it for years, and I'm so great at my job. I'm looking for other new challenges to push the envelope because this is just getting easy. Now, I say what I say on my channel. I believe what I say on my channel if you guys subscribe. And old media does not do a good job of proving me wrong. Like if your goal is to beat me or supersede the stuff that I'm saying or counter or refute or disprove the things that I say on my channel, I can wholeheartedly say old media has done a horrible job. Now, I've told you about the politics of boxing. I told you about the racism in boxing, the race, and particularly black fighters in America. Now, ESPN, if they truly wanted to, they're supposed to be a lead broadcaster in sports or whatever. If they truly wanted to, then they could do something about it. But they continually and perpetually put out lists like this, and the list is not, from the public's eye, a real good indication of what is really happening in the sport of boxing. It lacks diversity, and they try so hard to keep certain guys on the list. Like, for example, Gennady Golovkin. Hey, no, guys, hey, Max, right? He stayed on the list. Chocolatito stayed on the list, even though Chocolatito got knocked out by Sor Rungvisai, and he fought him in a rematch and got knocked out. And after being knocked out, which is as definitive as a boxing match can be, he never went back there to fight the guy. And to this day, he hasn't fought Rungvisai again, right? He's in fact leaving it up to somebody else, Bam Rodriguez, who just became a champion. And that's happening this weekend, right? Same thing with Canelo. On this current list, you see Canelo payday. You want payday? I know. You see him in at number 4. The same concept. Canelo Alvarez is coming off of a loss to Dmitry Bivol. Not only was it a bad loss, it was a definitive loss. Dmitry Bivol on the said night, Cinco de Mayo, Canelo begged for the Mexican dates. He said, I'm from Guadalajara, Mexico, and this is my dates and my people and my heritage. And after Floyd was no longer an active fighter, Canelo begged for these dates. He said, I'm the next up and leading candidate, and this is my heritage, blah, blah, blah. I want the Mexican dates. Well, you got the Mexican dates, and you also took a L on the Mexican dates to a Russian fighter in the middle of Russia invading Ukraine, which still persists. The problem is still going on as of me recording this video. But somehow, some way, old media sees this, and on mainstream old media, box media, right, pound for pound list, they continue to put certain fighters, which coincidentally happen to be fighters with the complexion for the protection, non-black fighters, and they'll put them on the top 10 list saying, hey, out of all active fighters, you are currently one of the best in world boxing. We got to rank you. But it's ironic that some of these same old media favorites, they actually hold them to a lesser standard than some of their counterparts who happen to be black. So again, if old media was trying to prove me wrong, they're not doing a great job of it. What do I mean? Let's unpack this. JERMELL Charlo, he had a tough fight on Showtime with Brian Castano, a great fighter who went to Golden Boy and beat Patrick Teixeira, a champion, and collected that belt in enemy territory. So Brian Castano was coming off a great win. I thought he beat Erislandy Lara. I got to watch it again. But at first glance, I thought he might have beat him, right? So he was robbed of an opportunity to become a champion then. Then later in his career, he stuck to the mission and became a champion again on hostile terms and enemy territory, beating Patrick Teixeira. And he brings that back to his home base, PBC. Charlo and him go to war in what was a fight of the year. Both guys did great work. Close fight, ended in a draw. This black fighter from Houston, Texas, JERMELL Charlo, was ridiculed, insulted, and reminded of the tough fight of Castano. You even had Canelo, who's number 4 on this list, call Brian Castano and say, hey, guess what, my friend? I had you winning the Charlo fight. Even though that's not the official ruling, it was scored a draw. JERMELL Charlo took all of this energy, all of this angst, got with his trainer, Derek James, and put it into kinetic energy and a great game plan, came back correct. The first fight looked similar to what the second fight looked like at first, but it was JERMELL Charlo and Derek James who are well equipped, and about round 4 or 5, they start pulling away. You know, JERMELL Charlo started pulling away and showing separation. Then he knocks out Brian Castano. And no one can complain about the knockdown because he got knocked down, got back up, and continued to get pulverized. This was an emphatic performance on Showtime, and that's why Steven Espinoza is saying this, because that's just one example. So as definitive as they come, Charlo knocks out somebody who's durable, who had never been, I don't even know if he had been dropped, to be honest. I don't know if Castano had been dropped, but I know he hadn't been knocked out, right? And Charlo does all of that in one night when the stakes are the highest. And this is a guy who, you know, some even said had your number. Then you look at Devin Haney. This man flew to Australia with or without his team, couldn't get his dad there until the last minute, and he's not thought of as the bigger puncher. He didn't fight Teofimo, and George Kambosos got a lot of props for fighting and beating Teofimo at home. And then Devin Haney takes the belt up off George Kambosos in his backyard, one-sided. Now, there were no knockdowns or knockouts, but it was very clear at the end of the fight who won the fight. So you tell me why they're not on ESPN, their pound for pound list. I mean, it just looks ridiculous. And then one of the ESPN reporters was basically trying to justify guys like Lomachenko, who has no belt and lost to the guy that so basically Devin Haney beat Kambosos, who beat Teofimo, and Teofimo beat Lomachenko. But Lomachenko, he doesn't even have 20 fights. Doesn't even have 20 fights, doesn't have a belt, and somehow he's still on the list, beating guys like Richard Comey and Nakatani, 2 guys that Teofimo had already beaten, one by stoppage, the Comey fight. But somehow this is enough to let Lomachenko cling on instead of making that space. And that's just one person. You know, you can look at the list and probably take some other people off, right? You got guys that failed drug tests, they still make the list. Meanwhile, JERMELL Charlo and Devin Haney never failed a drug test, but they can't make room on this list for that. You know what I mean? Or like I said, Devin Haney beat the guy to beat the guy. Charlo won as emphatic as you can possibly win by knockout. And they're both undisputed. And then the only guy, like Steven Espinoza said, that's undisputed, that's on the list, is Canelo, who's coming off a loss. And instead of doing what Charlo had to do versus Castano, doing what Devin Haney, the other black fighter, has to do and go fight again in Australia against the guy he already beat soundly, you know, so those rematches are confirmed. You know, Castano, he got through his. And then Charlo probably has to fight another tough fight in Tim Tszyu. Canelo ran the other way, turned down the Showtime deal, fought Bivol, lost to Bivol, and instead of avenging the Bivol fight, he's going another way to fight a 40-year-old Golovkin he already beat several years ago. But they can't make the list. They can't make the list, some of the other fighters. I mean, it's very clear to see. And then, you know, the reporter's saying, oh, it's subjective. But there's a difference between subjectivity and stupidity. And it makes no sense that you have 4-belt era, undisputed, rightful champions who earned it out the mud and did all these things and have to take these crazy rematches only for, no matter what, guys like Lomachenko or whoever else don't belong on the list manage to make the list. I mean, it's just crazy. So it just goes to show you, boxing, if they can't beat you, then they'll just like try to keep you off the list. So it just shows no matter what your performance is, no matter what you did in the ring, they might still try to find a way to bamboozle you off the charts, you know? So how is that fair? Drop your thoughts in the comments section. I'm introducing Super Thanks right here on the official Boxing Ego YouTube. Super Thanks allows you, the viewers, to show a little bit of extra gratitude, which enables me as a full-time content creator to push out the content you need in the world of boxing. Underneath all the videos, you will see a heart with the $sign in it. You can enter any amount that you find suitable as a super thanks. A brand new, interactive, and colorful way to get your comments highlighted and noticed by not only myself, but other people on the YouTube platform. Super thanks, a unique and cool way to show and applaud us full-time content creators. Hopefully you guys enjoy the content. Super thanks. The future is now. The Hibernation 5s by Kenichi Bear. Hybrid gaming and lifestyle headphones. Out of the box, you can connect to any console or PC. Bluetooth ready with a low latency USB adapter, color RGB, and extreme bass mode. The Hibernation 5s adjust to you. Whether you need a gaming, travel, gym, or lifestyle headphones, the Hibernations got you covered. The new Hibernation 5s, link in the description. Customize the way you hear the world. Welcome to the nation.